So welcome to an unexpected episode, because an unexpected guest has shown up here. Radical Reggie is finally in the games room, and we can finally talk about video games. And we met around 8 years ago in Portland. And you came up to me, and
it was funny. It was right at the end of the show, and I saw you walking by yourself, and I was like nervous. I was like, man, I said, why not? Let me just run up to him. Because I always get nervous, like if you guys are like tired or whatever like that. So I wouldn't be all like rude. But I went up to you, and I forgot what I asked you.
You're like, hey, Johnny, I really like your show. That's what you said.
Oh, that's all I said.
This is pretty much it. Yeah. And I'm, hey, Reggie, how you doing? Type of thing, and all that. And over the years, we've talked about trying to get together and doing a game chat episode, because Reggie's a great guy, but his knowledge in video games is like stellar. And we sat last night. We talked for 4 hours about video games. All we did was we should have recorded that.
We probably should have recorded that.
Because it was just, we were talking about Parasite Eve and which one we liked better and why, and all the music, and so many game series we talked about. So what I wanted to do today is talk and go back to the beginning, because you're a big video game collector, you love video games, you're passionate about it like I am. Where did it all begin? Like, this is like when you were younger. What was the first thing that really sparked it for you?
You know, it was kind of funny. So the one I remember the most was Punch-Out in the arcade. My brother worked at a pizza shop, and he took me there one time, and gave me a couple quarters. And it was funny because I was small, so I had to get like a chair to kind of stand up to play the arcade.
What year was this?
Gosh, this was like back in 1980. I want to say 85, 86. I can't remember.
Somewhere in 87.
It's definitely in the 80s somewhere.
Yeah.
And I got on there, and I was playing the game, and I was winning, and a lot of the teens were coming behind me cheering me on. So as a kid, when you get that kind of praise, there was a lot of people like praising me on because I was beating like some of the harder guys, and that really pumped me up, So I started like getting into video games, and then my mom, she randomly bought me an NES for Christmas. Just randomly. I didn't ask for it or anything. She just bought it for me. So it took off from there, and it was really...
So what were the first games you got on NES? What was it?
So, obviously, Super Mario Brothers was the first one, and finally beat that. And then we didn't get a lot of games, so you had to, like, borrow games
or rent.
Exactly. So, Super Mario Brothers, track and field, what my brother got, which was crazy. Punch-Out, of course, which was... Man,
that was a big game back then.
It was, man.
Everybody was playing that game. Mike Tyson was at this, like, his peak, and it was like, holy crap,
Yes, and it was
a game.
It was pretty crazy. I remember watching my brother play it, and he's the one that beat it before me. And we had trouble fighting like King Hippo because we didn't know the strategy to beat him.
Let me say, I'm terrible at that game.
Really?
Still to this day, I'm no good. All my friends are amazing at it. I mean, I'm like, I get to through a couple guys. I was done. I was like,
because every fighter is like vastly different how they fight you. So it's like, man, it changes up the momentum. So watched him play it. He beat the game. He beat Mike Tyson by decision, which was crazy.
Okay,
I mean, he didn't beat him at first because Tyson knocked you out one punch. But as he got better, he beat him by decision. And I just was kind of inspired by that. So when I started fighting him, I actually started beating Tyson, like knocking him out, like in the second round. So I was like really like happy.
You figured it out. You're just like, I got it figured out and all that.
And mostly, just at that time, because we didn't get many games over like only birthdays and Christmases, so we didn't have.
That's me too. Everybody thinks I had like tons of games, so it's like I had to wait till my birthday. I'm like, come on, I need a game. Like you could buy, you actually owned a game.
Yeah.
So your friends rent your copies of rentals. Yeah.
I mean, that was essential to like playing new games at the time, man, because we didn't know what was coming out, so our friends had different games. Hey, let me borrow this one.
We didn't have the internet, so you trusted your friends. They gave you a game. Sometimes it was a stinker. You're like, what the heck? Like, this game sucks. It's terrible and all that. And we had video game magazines. That was the only other way, right?
That was another thing. Yes. And that was pretty much my introduction into video games, I would say, at the time. And it kind of took off from there. I think I really liked the Super Nintendo era.
Oh yeah.
That was a really different era for me too. But I did fall off from that era of games. Like when I got to high school, I was like, no, I'm not going to play games anymore. I was like done.
Why was that?
I don't know, just going to different things, going into high school and stuff like that.
You thought you were outgrowing it, maybe?
I think that's what it. I think 100%. I think that's what it was. And what got me back into it was the PlayStation. The PlayStation was a serious system when it came to like new modern games. I mean, when I saw Resident Evil for the first time, and that FMV cinematic and mixed with gameplay, I thought like, video games meet Hollywood, because I'd never seen anything like that.
B-movie. It was really kind of, the voice acting we were talking about last night as well.
Yeah. And, that just really intrigued me. I said, wow, dude. So I had to get that game. So when I got my PlayStation, I had to save up for it, so I was like saving up my lunch money. I started walking to school, not buying lunch. That's how I started.
I'm with you on that back in the day.
I woke up earlier, walked to school because I usually had catch the bus to school, but I was like, I wake up earlier, say that, because I kept thinking about the PlayStation.
How long did it take you to save up the PlayStation then?
It was actually a bit easier. My mom said she would pay half of it, thankfully.
That's
so that
nice,
was cool.
yeah.
So what I did was I saved up. I got 2 games for it before I got it because I knew the games didn't. The system didn't come with games. That's when they stopped coming with games. So I bought Mega Man X4, and I had Resident Evil Director's Cut because I wanted to play that demo of Resident Evil 2 so bad. And it took me around, I think, maybe 2 months. To get everything set up perfectly.
And you're like, I got it all, and it's like it was heaven back then. It was the PlayStation 1 era. You can't stress it enough. The games there were unbelievable, and it was really the start of everything.
Yeah.
Like the Super Nintendo and the NES were a really great base and all that, but the PlayStation was like off to the races, and we were going to go into big RPGs and all sorts of crazy things and all of that. So what was the next big game on PlayStation? It must have been. I was going to guesstimate for you, but what was the big game for you?
The big game for me was Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2. That's the one I was really crazy for. Because I told you this last night. Like it was hard to decide whether I was going to get a Saturn or a PlayStation at the time.
Right.
The Saturn had this great deal going on. If you bought the Saturn, you got 3 games with it.
Right.
I was like, woo, that's good. And I get to play Nights in the Dreams. But then what happened was Resident Evil 2 was supposed to come out for the Saturn. They had mentioned it.
Cancel it.
Then it got canceled. I was like, dude. I was like, I can't. Tomb Raider 2, not on the Saturn. So I was like, I got to go with the PlayStation. And thankfully I did. So I got Resident Evil 2, and I had Tomb Raider 2.
Yes.
And Tomb Raider 2, man, that's my favorite Tomb Raider game of all time. That game, I went through that whole game. Levels are hard.
Right.
The floating island levels, if you guys remember, that level was brutal.
Yeah, I only ever played the first game there and some of the later games and all of that. I used to get frustrated by the game so much. I was like, oh my god.
Well, sometimes you just can't see where you need to go properly. And then, around Tomb Raider 3, man, stuff started to really blend in with each other with the graphics.
Where am I looking at? Can I jump to that ledge? Is that a ledge? What am I looking at? I know. It was like crazy. What a wonderful time for video games. Resident Evil 2, I mean, it looked like an arcade game that you could play at home with the survival horror, which is great. Then, what was the biggest game on PlayStation for you? You're, like the big one. You're like, oh my! I know you just said Resident Evil 2. What was the next big thing?
I think. Oh man, it's a tough one, but I think the biggest game on that system for me that really just like made my heart sink. I know a lot of people are gonna give me heck for this, but it wasn't Final Fantasy 7. It was actually Final Fantasy 8.
He says this to me last night, and I kind of applauded it because it was such a unique take on it. Everybody says Final Fantasy 7, including myself.
Right.
But I love Final Fantasy 8, and there's a lot of people out there we were talking about that don't like Final Fantasy 8.
Right.
And you went in there and you're like, what? We talked about, I know the answer because you told me last night. What was it about Final Fantasy 8 that stuck out for you the most?
Well, the graphics, I mean, they were high school students, which I was like in high school at the same time, so I could kind of relate to the characters. And, just the way the graphics, the story was amazing. I mean, it just was really, the next step for like video games to me. Because if you go to Final Fantasy 7, the character models in that game
super deformed.
Yeah, they were from the N64 version of it, which got canceled, of course. So I felt like they used those same sprites. They maybe upgraded them a little bit, but I felt like Final Fantasy 7 should have had a more upgraded style where the characters looked.
Right.
So Final Fantasy 8 did that for me.
It was weird, and I remember it was weird when you saw the characters running around on the screen. You're like, whoa! I've never seen a party look like that.
Yeah, it was insane, right?
It was kind of they were finally realistic and all of that, and they weren't like cartoony sprites. They were like polygons, and it was like it was kind of really cool. And the music in that game, I know the draw magic and all that. POs a lot of people off. I personally thought it was fine and all of that. Man with the machine gun music.
Yes, Laguna. Yes, I love that.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time I got to that part in the game, I was like, oh my god, this music is incredible.
Yeah.
And all of that, and it's got a nice story to it. I mean, it's really whimsical. I really recommend it. You can probably pick it up for so cheap now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nothing now.
But I do love Final Fantasy 7. Don't get me wrong. That game had its moments. That would be the next one I would choose. I mean, I honestly think Final Fantasy 6 is the best one in the series, but it's not my favorite one. You know what I mean? Like I can understand. Like 6 is, oh man. 4,
it's for me. 4, which was when it was released over here, it was called 2, and all that. That one is magical for me. I just it's just the right time. I had the Super Nintendo, and it's like I'd already played Final Fantasy on the NES, and then like we're getting a Super Nintendo Final Fantasy. I didn't even know it was 4 at the time. It was just like it was 2. I put it in, and me and all my friends were just. It was just like a next generation RPG. It was like unbelievable times. So then we're moving off the PlayStation, and then like what I think I want to get to here is when did you become when did it become an obsession, like a passionate obsession? You're like, I like playing video games and I like all these games, but when did it all of a sudden go boom? I really like video games and I really want to collect.
It started around the PlayStation era.
Yeah, it was that era.
It was that era. I started, I was keeping all my games. That's how I accumulated a collection. I kept most of the games I owned over the years.
That's how I did mine.
Yeah. And that was this serious business for me. The RPGs, I felt like it was the golden era RPGs.
Definitely.
You know, Star Ocean: The Second Story.
Yeah.
I love that game. I was like, dude, this game is for me. I was so happy playing that.
Grandia was on there.
Yeah, Grandia was on there.
And we could sit and talk about there's just so many. Chrono Cross we were talking about last night.
Chrono Cross, yes, and Xenogears. You know,
oh my God,
yes,
legendary, legendary game.
So it was just like that time of gaming for me was like amazing. And, you know, it's just going through these games and all the detail and just reading the story. It was just like it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember like when I beat Xenogears. You know, it was like I think it was December 23rd, 1997. It was like 2 days before Christmas. I was like, dude, like I was so happy because that game was frustrating with all the dialogue and stuff sometimes. And like when I beat that game, I was like, yes.
Especially the second disc we were talking about, but I mean, going up against the Wave Existence in the end was like that music, and you're going, oh my God, you go through with your max. It's just so ridiculous. That game, we were talking about it all last night. We can't say enough. I would like to say that to the audience is that if you haven't played Xenogears, please track it down on whatever system you can pick it up on, and I think you can get it fairly cheap now. Play it. Yeah. It's really unique. We're talking about the combat is so cool.
Yeah,
the combination is so awesome. Yeah.
There's robot combat, which is awesome. Then the player combat, the human combat, like the karate moves and stuff.
Yeah. That's great.
It was so great.
Yeah. How you input the commands and all of that. So then also you start collecting stuff, and then when you were collecting during that time, so that's why you were able to build everything up, and before YouTube happened, before everybody, people like myself came on and unfortunately didn't mean to, kind of ruined it for retro collectors by talking about all the old games that I liked. All of a sudden, talking about Earthbound and all these things, all of a sudden the prices rose on them over the years. Right. You were able to jump in just before that?
Yeah, I was always able to look ahead of the game. When a lot of people were like collecting Nintendo and Super Nintendo stuff, I was already like on Game Boy Advance, Genesis stuff. And a lot of stuff was like dirt cheap, like no one cared about it. So I was like looking at games that I would like, picking them out. And luckily I got them early because they went up pretty fast later on.
God, like crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you a question. If you could have, and I haven't asked you this yet, if you could have a complete collection for any system, like all of the games for that one system, what system would it be? I know. I know. That's a good one. I'm stumping you here. I already said that mine would be Neo Geo, without question.
Is this American complete version or like all region for that system?
Make it an American. Yeah, sure. We'll go that way.
Man.
I know. There's there's so many goodies to pick.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I gotta go with the PlayStation 1.
Wow. You know what? You get so many excellent games, and there's so many hidden gems. Yes. Definitely in there as well to play. And there's so many great games on PlayStation. You got to, and there's a lot. I mean, I don't know what the complete number is, but it's like a lot of games. I mean, and all of that. I know it's strange having these collections of games and all that. I mean, me and you were talking last night, and it's really, we collected because it's our passion.
Right.
And all of that. And that's why we got along so well. Like last night, we were going so hardcore. Yeah. If anybody came into the room, it would sound like we were talking an alien language. Because we were talking about things that like rock climbers came in the room. They'd be like, "What are you guys talking about?" on all of that. So, do you keep up with the latest games? Are you how do you go about staying in it now? Do you do you still just buy the games if obviously you like? And all that. How do you go about that?
Usually for me, word of mouth. I talk with friends and everything. They keep me laced up, and I keep them laced up with information about certain games coming out. It's not hard to know what AAA titles are coming out. It's more harder for the games that I grew up with, platform games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The indie type games is what they call them, that are getting physical releases. 'Cause I like physical releases, obviously.
Yeah.
And those are the ones I try to keep up with just from word of mouth.
Yeah. There's we live in such a time now where when we grew up, there's a game here, the game there would come out. Where now it's just every month it's there's 20 titles that are amazing sometimes. Like the last few months for me with Final Fantasy 16, Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, Resident Evil 4 remake we were talking about. It's really hard to keep up. I mean, is there ever going to become a point where you stop collecting, or you're going to always collect?
I felt like, the PS5 era would be my last era for like games, because a lot of games today, patches and all that stuff.
You're not getting the full game.
Yeah, you're not even.
Trust me, I'm very conscious of that too.
So I felt like the 7th generation was the last of like complete games, to be honest with you, when it comes to like patches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like around the PS5 era is going to be it for me, but I could change my mind at any time. So hey,
and they're really trying to get us away from physical copies.
They are, because when the announcement of the PS5 happened, I knew right away when they showed the physical and the digital.
I know they're trying to wean us out.
I knew what was going on. I was like, wow.
Yeah, the physical one was for us older people. Like, hey, we'll appease them, and for everybody else, I know a lot of people that just buy digital. They don't care, and a lot of younger people don't care.
Yeah, they just never.
They're from the streaming era now, right?
Yeah, they're from the streaming era.
It's just like normal for them to do that, and so we are entering a weird time. So it might become the end of a certain time period for collecting games, and then maybe one day this will be it, and it'll be all over. And that's kind of weird to think about. I think maybe Nintendo will always still be making cartridges, but then again, with these patches, even Final Fantasy 16, I was playing the game, and all of a sudden this patch came out. I was like, what?
One of the worst things too, when you get these patches, they'll say, hey, you don't have enough room to download this patch. I'm like, oh, what I got to delete now?
Yeah. I'm always micromanaging games. I'm like, I don't want to get rid of this game. I'm like, I just kind of want it on the ready in case I always want to go for it and all of that stuff. So what is your favorite system to collect for in general?
Right now, I'm having a great time with the Switch, but I want to choose something besides the Switch. I would say probably PS4.
PS4.
Yeah.
Do you know,
right now, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I got a bit of a PS4 collection myself, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy collecting for that.
Yeah, because the PS4 they're trying to phasing it out, so I'm trying to like find a lot of the titles that that I like before they kind of close out on it. Because a lot of what they're doing right now, how they would put games on the Switch and then PS4. Now they're putting games on Switch and PS5, and these are games that are not pushing the PS5's capabilities. They're like indie type games. So I'm like, dang, why can't they put this on PS4? So I'm looking for a lot of titles like that on PS4, I would say. So
there's a lot of great RPGs on there, a lot of stuff like that, a lot of stuff that that we like, and all of that. I know even with the PS5 games, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this is like half a game on here and all that. But I'd say for me right now, I know it's the stereotype that you stayed away from. Yeah. I love collecting for the Switch. I love collecting for the Switch. I'm really enjoying it.
The Switch is a hybrid system. It's a console and a console to play on the go.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude,
And there's just so many. We were talking last night. There's so many shooters that are coming on the Switch that are so awesome. And I'm just like, I have to absolutely.
Like I was telling you about that one. Actually, we got to play it later. That one called Drainus.
By the guys who did Lotus War.
Yes, exactly.
Deidre, Lotus War. Yeah. That sounds. Yeah, I have not seen that game. You got me totally intrigued. You're like, you got to play this. So we'll definitely play that later on and all of that. So what do you think in general about a new person coming in to collect now? Say somebody's watching this video and they're like, hey, maybe they're like in their early 20s. They're like, I'd like to get into collecting video games, but I don't know where to start. What would you say? Like, get the genre of games. Like,
start where what you could afford. I say go on the cheap. The cheapest games to buy right now are probably PS4 games. And because a lot of people want to start, but they want to accumulate a collection, a library of games. And a good way to start that is by starting with the cheapest system right now for games. And I believe that's the PS4. A couple years ago was the PS3 and Xbox 360. And Xbox regular Xbox might be another good system to start collecting for.
Xbox 360 is a great system. If you want great games and you don't want to pay a lot of money, 360 is the best, one of the nicest places to jump in. You can walk into any used video game store, they'll have walls of 360 games. It's kind of strange that way. They're not really collectible. Some of them are obviously rare, but you can go in there and find a lot of great games for super cheap and start building a collection of games that you like. And that's what I always say. Like, me and Reggie don't buy games because we think it's going to have a financial endeavor in the future. We buy games because we like the game. We have a real passion in that game. And yes, I put a lot of special editions on the shelf, but I usually have the physical copy that I've already played or a digital code that I've already played and all of that. And to me, I like walking in my room and seeing like a special edition or a game I really like, and it kind of fills me with energy.
Yeah.
And I got to say something. I've had this game room for 15 years, every time I walk in here and I look at the games, I still get the energy off them. I don't walk in and go, well, this is kind of blah.
Right.
I'm not really. I walk in and I always get a lot of energy in this room.
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of like, look here and you see the dot hack games. I get really excited about even looking at all this stuff. And I think that's why we collect. You walk in, see all your games, and you're like, oh my God, this is all the stuff that I really love. You know, we don't collect games because we hate them.
Right.
We don't collect games, I just think it's something casual I'll do and all of that kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to add?
You know, I would like to make an announcement here that Ease 8 is my favorite Ease game. Just want to put that out there.
I love this. We were talking about this, and I'm like, you know, that's a really good choice.
Yeah.
And I've said that Ease 8 is just such a phenomenal game, and a game that everybody should try out. And I know you were kind of slagging 9 a bit, but 9's a good game as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really good game. Even Celceta is a good, nice little. That's a nice little Ease game to get in. But I say if anybody wants to jump in and they've never played an Ease game, go to Ease Origin. It's super cheap, and that's a fun game and all that. But yeah, we're talking about Ease 8. It's just that game has something to it, and you said you went through it once and you're like, I'll try it again, and you really got into it again. But like finished it all the way through.
Yeah,
and all that.
It was an amazing experience when we were playing that game. I had such a good time. I didn't want it to end.
Yeah, I know. I actually went on record and said it's a 10 out of 10 game.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Because I think it is. There's a lot of characters are blabbering on and on in the game, but the action combat is so great. The bosses are fun. The music is kind of a return to Ease in a lot of ways and all of that. And I really enjoyed that. And looking forward to Ease 10 Nordics. I'm really looking forward to that and seeing what that has to offer. It really looks like a return to Ease 8, and so that's really exciting. But man, it's so amazing to have you up here. We tried to get Reggie up here just before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened.
It happened.
So there's just like, well, that's not happening, and all of that. So yeah. So anyways, we just want to come in and do a little video and talking about some of the passions, what kind of got like Reggie into video games and all of that. And we're gonna go in the other room now and play some games for the afternoon and have a really good time. And so actually, I'll ask you guys a question. What got you into collecting video games? Like, where did it begin? Where did your passion start from? Let me know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.